With line designs, you often see a static line or a dynamic line. Today I want to talk about vertical static lines. And vertical static lines really are kind of like the axis. So I've got a container and I want to add my vertical line. I'm going to use some snapdragons to do that with. And that vertical line, what it does, that static line that we're going to create, what it does is that it gives you stability in your design. What we see is it often creates your height, which we're going to see with this. And I'm going to try to put all my snaps at the same height, so my emphasis is at that height level. It also kind of gives us that fixed position that we want, so we're going to bring it straight up. What I love about line designs is the perceived value your consumers see, because oftentimes using less product, but it's bigger, and it gives us that emphasis. It creates strength, and as often it's very kind of formal. It's kind of architectural. It kind of gives you that kind of feel of structural soundness when we're creating that design. I'm trying to get them all to be about the same, so that they're all going the same direction. But it also can be not just the strength, it also can give us kind of stillness. What we see is that it's very still within their design structure. I'll bring it down just a little bit so we've got that strength. In the center of your foam is where they want to go. We want to use foam just for that strength and that stability that we want to establish with that. Then we're going to come back to our base. Because then with our static line, we're going to eventually add a dynamic line. And that dynamic line can be created with just softness that we want to add. So I'm going to come back here with some umbrella fern. I'm just going to do a little bit of collaring all the way around, just to give us that emphasis of base, so it kind of comes all the way around. I'm also going to use some Floral. Then I'm going to cut in pieces and put that all the way around just to emphasize that collaring that we have. It also gives me a textural balance when I'm through with it. So I've got that fluffy of the umbrella fern, and then I've got the sleekness of the Floral leaves. The whole main base of this, or basing techniques, is just to cover your foam. But it's also, you have to follow those elements that you want to add to that. Just that dimension. You want to add that surface qualities just to give us emphasis and just interest. It's that visual interest that keeps your eye looking at that. So we created our base structure down at the very bottom. And let's come back and let's emphasize this just even more. So we'll come back. And I want to add just a little bit of heather, just to reinforce that structural line movement that we have. And I also was pulling that color down. Pull that in towards. You can see how that just pulls it right down to that strength. I like this vertical line movement just because it's very kind of stoic. It just kind of makes a presence, and it gives it that, like, I am here, you can see me kind of attitude when it comes to design. When you're designing with line, you often see that it is very emotional. It creates an emotion with this. This one is just really feels comfort, but we see emotions all the way through. And oftentimes I see when it's like, you find this branch and it's like, oh my gosh, I got to design with this branch. And that to me is what is exciting about floral design, is finding something that you're just like, oh my gosh, I have to design with this just because it's incredible. And these beautiful peach roses down to my very base, just to bring that interest down. And I always like to use that rule of thumb. If you put it on one side, put it on the other side. If you see any of my teachings in any of my classes, that's the rule of thumb. That gives you those 4 balances. Gives you physical balance, visual balance, textural balance, and color balance just by doing that. So I added those all the way around. I also have a few carnations that are about the same color as these beautiful peach roses, and just tuck them in. Textural qualities, again, create emphasis in the design. And you can see that we've got this beautiful static line, that line that gives us that strength. And when we're looking at line designs are just dramatic, and they just give us that emphasis that we want. All right, so now we're going to come back with this, and I want to add a curvilinear line or a dynamic line that creates the energy. Here we're very stable, we're very strong all the way through. Let's add some movement to this. So I just have a ruscus branch. And dynamic lines, what they do is sometimes you can follow the vertical line or the horizontal line, whichever you created to go through, but it creates dimension, it creates direction and a pathway that your eye wants to follow. It softens it. It can be forceful or it can be soft. It can create that action or motion within the design. Lines can be bending or contorted or cascading or zigzag, whatever you want it to be. But what it does is that creates interest. So we're just going to add this beautiful stem of ruscus. So we're going to bring it around. And I'm just going to get a little bit of a binding here. And it's just some bind wire. But I want to attach it. And what this does is it takes that stability line that we created with that static line and that verticalness of the snapdragons, and it just tones it down. It just makes it softer. As you can see, it creates just a softer line movement that's added to this static line. So adding that dynamic line with the ruscus to the static line of the snapdragons, we have a beautiful line design that has interest, curiosity, and emotion.